Part 68. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 671. Huo Maoang, are you working as a handyman here? Lian Nishang also looked in disbelief and asked Huo Maoang. I've seen Fairy Lian. The other four people found the opportunity and quickly greeted Lian Nishang. Nishang waved her hand casually, looked at Zuyun, and then at Huo Maoang. Huo Maoang smiled bitterly and said, Fairy Lian, senior brother Xianxia said that the fire dragon sect is going to have a great disaster. We, the humble disciples, are afraid that we will die if we go back, so after thinking about it, it is better to die than to live, so we stay here. It's just you. He told me it would be best if I stayed too. The person Lian Nishang was talking about was naturally referring to Zuyun. However, after the fire dragon sect became acquainted with Huo Maoang, seeing him here again made Lian Nishang feel much better. That's good, that's good. Huo Maoang didn't know why, but he felt relieved. You may think that since Zuyun asked Lian Nishang to come here, they wouldn't suffer any big losses, right? Zuyun spoke at this time and said, you are all in the pill formation stage. How about I rearrange a place for you and just follow the refining fairy? It just so happens that you are all disciples of the fire dragon sect, so you will be familiar with each other. How dare these people refuse to agree and nod their heads repeatedly. Huo Maoang was the happiest and kept thanking Zuyun. Zuyun smiled and said, you all know how to refine alchemy and make weapons, so you follow my master to practice alchemy and weaponry in the valley. Normally, if the sect does not have any major events, it will not disturb your practice. But if danger comes, you have to do your best, okay? That's for sure. When they heard that they didn't need to do any chores, just refining elixirs and making weapons, this was equivalent to asking them to continue practicing. How could they not be willing to do so? Besides, having Lian Nishang here made them feel more at ease. So good. Zuyun nodded and said, then you can follow me out of the battle. Elder Tang has left temporarily because of something, and I have the final say here. He deliberately didn't say that Tang Liwen would never return, which actually gave these people an invisible deterrent. Keeping them would be a great help to Sun Suanhua, not to mention the Lingjian sect. But it is inevitable that some accidents will happen. Tang Liwen, the news that a nascent soul stage might come back at any time can really make them worry a lot. After leading them out of the formation, Lian Nishang suddenly said, Huo Xianxia, Huo Maoang, and I are walking back. You can take them back first. Zuyun glanced at Lian Nishang and agreed, then stood up and flew towards the valley with the four of them. When the five people were far away, Huo Maoang looked solemn and said, Fairy Lian, do you have something to do with me? Is it related to senior brother Xianxia? Lian Nishang said, it has nothing to do with him, it has to do with myself. I remember, you still have fire dragon pills on you, right? Can you lend me a few pills? Fire dragon pill? I still have it, give it all to you. Huo Maoang knew that Lian Nishang would be his only supporter in the Lingjian sect, so he took out all the 2 bottles on his body. One bottle was given to him by Mr. Zheng, and the other bottle was given to him by Zuyun. Fairy Lian, are you injured? After handing over the elixir, Huo Maoang looked at Lian Nishang up and down, but couldn't find anything at all. Well, I suffered some internal injuries. Don't tell Huo Xianxia, lest he worry. Huo Maoang nodded, but there were some doubts in his heart. In his memory, the last time he heard about these 2 people was that they left together. Then why did senior brother Xianxia not know that Fairy Lian was injured? Moreover, Fairy Lian was not willing to let Cheng Hua know. There must be a hidden secret in this. After Lian Nishang swallowed a fire dragon pill, he said, let's go, so as not to keep them waiting for a long time. Good. By the time the 2 people reached the valley, Zuyun had already helped Sun Suanhua make arrangements. After seeing them, Zuyun quickly introduced them to Sun Suanhua and said, "Master, this is the fairy refiner refining the colorful clothes. This is Huo Maoang. If anything happens in the future, you can just go to them directly." "Well." Sun Suanhua nodded repeatedly. He knew what Zuyun meant by his words, which meant that if there was anything you didn't understand about Laoxi Yuyun's experience, you could ask them for help. In other words, these two people are people whom Zuyun trusts and who have no problems. "Zuyun, it's time for you to leave, right?" At this time, Meng Wei took a step forward and said, "Well, it's time to go. You stay in the valley and get along well with Fairy Lian. I feel more at ease." Zuyun smiled. An hour later, the mountain entrance of Lingjian sect, led by Sun Suanhua, Meng Wei, Lian Nishang, Daegu Ergu, Yezhi, and others, all came to see them off. "Zuyun, although we don't know what you are going to do, no matter what, we hope you can come back safely," Sun Suanhua said seriously. "Haha, Master, everyone, don't worry. Zuyun, will not die that easily." After saying that, he rose up and flew towards the direction of Barren Rock Mountain. This time, he had no intention of going back the way he came. "Hopefully, we can arrive within half a month and find Sun Qiniang again." Meng Wei told him that the reason why Sun Qiniang was in the Peeper Realm was because after he was sent to Chuzhu in the formation of Barren Stone Mountain, she abandoned her sect and only wanted to find him along the way. Therefore, after knowing that Sun Qiniang might be in danger, he embarked on the road to find her without any hesitation. Fortunately, Zuyun has a clearer destination than he did then. Arriving at Barren Rock Mountain again, Zuyun flew over the mountain village specially. He did not go into the village to see his father, but only glanced down from high in the sky. Zhu Rong and his stepmother were seen busy doing something, but their movements were slow. It was obvious that the butcher's knife of time had made the two of them older and their movements slowed down. But this time, no children appeared. Zuyun couldn't help but think of Zhu Feng again, with mixed feelings in his heart. But despite this, he still left, flew around, and flew directly to the teleportation array. Stepping into the formation again, Zuyun entered the spiritual power without hesitation. Through this formation, he can directly reach the volcanic belt in Chuzhu, saving a lot of time. Today's Zuyun's strength is not what it used to be. Soon, the spiritual power required for the formation has been filled. When his figure appeared again, Zuyun was already in Chuzhu. It's still the familiar volcanic belt, and the dilapidated Liwo sect mountain gate dozens of miles away. I don't know what happened to that kid from Li Mo. He followed Lin Xiaoqi to the Lin family. When passing by Li Huo sect, Zuyun couldn't help but stop and think of Li Mo. At that time, in order to escape Wu Chideo's pursuit, the troops had to split into two groups to escape. But who would have thought that Wu Chideo would eventually die in the hands of Zhu Feng? Wait a minute, if I listen to what Wine Demon Lord said, Wu Chideo's puppet controlling demon section. Could it also come from Yusha realm? Zuyun vaguely realized something was wrong, but he didn't know much information and couldn't deduce anything else, so he had to give up. No matter what, the war between Yusha realm and Peeper realm hasn't started yet, so I'd better save Sun Qiniang first. Thinking of this, when Zuyun was about to leave, infinite power suddenly came from all directions. The situation is changing and the storm is rising. Looking up, the sky is filled with five-colored brilliance, heading straight towards Zuyun. There is no way to heaven and no way to earth. Who? Zuyun quickly used the void-breaking spirit eye technique and saw countless intricate formation patterns at a glance. Someone actually set up a huge formation here. Ha ha ha, boy, Tang searched all over Chuzhu but couldn't find you. I didn't expect that one day you would arrive here. Tang Tiangang, will definitely avenge this. Tang Tiangang. Zuyun was stunned. How could Tang Tiangang run into Luo sect if he wasn't guarding Xian city? This is strange. If he had seen Tang Tiangang before, he would have definitely run away. But now, regardless of how the formation is, I have more methods and a higher realm. After the laughter ended, Tang Tiangang appeared dozens of steps in front of Zuyun. Zuyun was also shocked. Tang Tiangang, who was so majestic back then, now looked even sloppier than Feng and he. What has he experienced? Boy, you have reached the late stage of pill formation. It seems that you are constantly encountering adventures. It's a pity that in my eyes, the late stage of pill formation is nothing. Tang Tiangang was so rude that he didn't take Zuyun seriously. Zuyun raised his eyebrows and sneered, Tang Tiangang, for the sake of the Tang family and me, I am willing to let you go. As long as you take back the formation, from now on, you and I will be on good terms. River water. Ha ha ha, boy, do you think that in the later stage of your pill formation, you can do whatever you want in the land of Chuzhu? There is a mountain higher than the other. Come out and let him see your true strength. After the words fell, in the formation shrouded in five-color brilliance, a round sun suddenly rose in the sky. The dazzling golden light made it almost impossible to open one's eyes. The peak of the late stage of pill formation. Feeling the huge momentum, Zuyun spat out a few words lightly. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 672. Boy, you are only in the late stage of Jindan, how dare you talk to me in this tone? You are really not afraid of death. The man looked at Zuyun coldly with a sharp gaze. Haori sect, I think the only one who can survive is sect master Li Chengan, right? Through the huge halo in the air, Zuyun recognized the man. This is Li Chengan, who disappeared when the people of Wanjian Mountain joined forces to attack Xian city. It was just a coincidence that he got mixed up with Tang Tiangang. These two people have only one thing in common. That is, they hate Wanjian Mountain very much. But they don't know that Wanjian Mountain has been destroyed, and no one is alive except Yezi. The boundless hatred cannot be vented, so the two simply stayed in Luo sect. It can't be said that they depend on each other, but they use each other, take their strengths, and then go to Peeper Realm together. Coincidentally, Zuyun passed by here and was seen by Tang Tiangang. Thinking of how Zuyun had fooled him all the way, how could Tang Tiangang miss this opportunity? Boy, you have a good eye. You actually recognized the sect master? Unfortunately, Haori sect has been destroyed, Wanjian Mountain has been destroyed, and this sect master's son is nowhere to be found. I can't swallow this breath. It's just right to vent my anger on you. Die. Li Chengan didn't give Zuyun a chance to react. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hands over his head. The huge halo in the sky, like the sun falling, hit Zuyun. Humph, it's not that easy for someone in the Jindan realm to kill me. Zuyun shouted coldly, and his eyes, which were using the Pakuling Jingju, faced the dazzling golden light of the halo. In an instant, he saw that the spiritual power in the halo was constantly flowing around the center, which meant that it was the weakness of the halo. Since there is a weakness, break it for me. Zuyun raised his hand, and the Chaos Sword immediately appeared in his hand. The Chaos Seed almost simultaneously activated the Chaos Force, which quickly rushed towards the sword. Break it for me. With Zuyun's low shout, the Chaos Sword stabbed out, and the Chaos Force surged out, like a dragon emerging from the water, rushing straight to the center of the light wheel. Boom! The Chaos Force collided with the light wheel, and a roar was heard instantly. The sky and the earth changed color, and even the formation set up by Tang Tiangang was shaking. Tang Tiangang, this kid, is very strong. With just one sword, Li Chengan realized that he had underestimated Zuyun, and immediately shouted loudly, meaning that he should rush to help him. Tang Tiangang was also a little interested, but when he started to fight, he was unambiguous. 10 directions killing formation. Sword up. He quickly grasped the formation formula, and with his strength in the formation, he almost said it and the formation followed. In an instant, the 5-color light turned into gray-white murderous aura, rushing towards Zuyun from all directions. Boy, this 10 directions killing formation is what I have been practicing hard for these years. It is completely different from the one I used to test you before. Prepare to die. Tang Tiangang roared madly, revealing his yellow teeth. If he didn't make a move, it would be fine. Once he made a move, he would kill Zuyun. Old thing, you hurt me back then. I didn't bother with you because you are a member of the Tang family. But since you are so ungrateful, don't blame me for being rude. Zuyun shouted fiercely, and while slashing at Li Chengan with a sword, he quickly took out a handful of spirit stones and threw them out. 9 turns 9 suns formation. Tang Tiangang, who had seen Zuyun's methods with his own eyes, suddenly remembered that Zuyun's formation was ordinary in his eyes, but the formation he laid was by no means ordinary. In an instant, the 9 turns 9 suns formation took shape, not only surrounding Zuyun and Li Chengan in the formation, but also resisting the murderous aura coming from the sky. Boom! 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 The 9 turn 9 yang formation was also shaking, but Li Chengan was not feeling well in the formation. 9 rounds of scorching sun burned his head. If there was only one sun, he would not be afraid. But these 9 rounds, equivalent to Zuyun's 9 attacks. Recalling Zuyun's sword that directly destroyed his own light will before, it was enough to prove that Zuyun was not inferior to himself in terms of attack power. Boy, don't think that I, Li Chengan, will be afraid of you. Li Chengan knew that if he didn't move, he would become a living target. But what he didn't expect was that Zuyun didn't expect to attack with the sun. No matter how strong Li Chengan was, he couldn't be stronger than Yuanying. Wait until he was done with him, and then go and do Tang Tiangang. Although Zuyun was usually easy to talk to, once he had a murderous heart, almost no one could survive. What does it have to do with me whether you are afraid or not? Zuyun sneered, Wuji Sorju, a sword slashed out. Anyway, in my eyes, you are just a dead man. The Wuji sword art, the move is a weakness. Even though Li Chengan is the number 1 cultivator in Yeazhu now, Zuyun has killed even Yuanying in the Peeper realm. He is the number 1 person below Yuanying. Even if he doesn't use the Chaos Sword, he can still kill Li Chengan with several methods. The reason for using the sword is nothing more than the lowest cost of using the sword. Whether it is the Ice Tornado Talisman or the Chaos Palm, for Zuyun, the Chaos Sword can allow him to retain his strength as much as possible. If the Immortal Sword can't even kill a Jindan stage, it's better to draw a piece of tofu on the wall and hit it to death. The sword moves are extremely ordinary, and Li Chengan, who has fought with several elders of Wanjian Mountain, can naturally see it. But just when he wanted to laugh at Zuyun, he discovered to his horror that he seemed unable to resist the thrust of Zuyun's sword. Whether it's dodging, resisting, or switching from defense to offense. A cold feeling suddenly appeared in his heart, but it was already too late. Zuyun would not give him a chance, and Li Chengan already felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. He looked down in disbelief. The dark sword blade had already penetrated his body. The spiritual energy in his body was losing like crazy, and it seemed that his consciousness was taking away his consciousness, gradually becoming blurry. Looking at the Chaos Sword again, he seemed to see an eternal and profound pupil. Cold and ruthless. As Li Chengan's vitality dissipated and his head hung down, Zuyun's 9 turns and 9 suns formation finally could not withstand the murderous intent of the 10 directions killing formation. The formation broke, accompanied by Tang Tiangong's crazy laughter, murderous intent surged in. But when Zuyun drew his sword and Li Chengan's body lost support and fell, Tang Tiangong's laughter stopped abruptly. He had no idea that Li Chengan was not only defeated, but also dead. No, it's impossible. How could you kill Li Chengan? Tang Tiangang felt as if he had been hit hard on the chest and took a few steps back with a look of horror on his face. Li Chengan is extremely powerful. Even Tang Tiangang is no match for him without the support of Xian City. But just when he broke the formation, Li Chengan died. What does this mean? This shows that the boy in front of him is not what he used to be, and his strength is far superior to the two of them. Afraid. When Zhu Yunpakuling's eyes technique came, he could naturally see the gap between these murderous auras. Using the immortality technique, he strolled around and dodged easily, then raised his eyebrows and disdained to ask questions. You. Seeing Zhu Yun walk out of it safe and sound, a flash of cruelty flashed in Tang Tiangong's eyes, and then he fell to his knees directly. Little brother, Tang is too blind to recognize Taishan. At that time, it was all a misunderstanding. Zhu Yun sneered and already flashed in front of Tang Tiangang. At that time, he was extremely cautious in the city lord's mansion in Scarlet Flame City because Tang Tiangang had been operating in Scarlet Flame City for hundreds of years, and his attainments in formations were also low at that time, so he couldn't tell if there would be other advanced warriors nearby. Arrangement of formations. But now, not only has his realm reached a higher level, but his attainments in formations have also been learned from Tang Liwen. In addition, he has learned a lot about the formations from the Tang family in the explanation of formation. He poses no threat at all. Even this 10 directions killing formation was created by Tang Tiangang on the surface, but in fact, it still had some similarities with the Dozhuan Xing shifting formation. The formation path never changes without departing from its origin. I always keep my word. If you don't take action, I will let you go. But you, since you have murderous intentions towards me, then I have no choice but to take your life. After that, Zhu Yun stabbed with his sword. Tang Tiangang, who had no spiritual roots and extremely weak spiritual power, relying on the formation to gain a foothold, died in front of Zhu Yun like this. "Aunt Tang, I'm sorry." Zhu Yun took back the chaos sword, turned around and left. Just an hour later, in Luo sect, an illusory figure suddenly appeared. It has no entity and seems to be blown away by the wind at any time. Fortunately, I had a backup plan and planted a resurrection grass. This boy is so strong now, but the Aunt Tang he talks about, couldn't she be an elder of my Tang family? Humph, Tang Tiangang, will never give up until I take revenge. Even Zhu Yun didn't know that he had not killed all Tang Tiangang. And Tang Tiangang, who had retained a trace of his soul, finally landed on Li Chengan after his figure fluctuated for a while. There is no other way. There is no one in Chuzhu, so we can only borrow corpses to bring back souls. A few days ago, Li Chengan also said that he had received a recall order from Yusha, so he just pretended to be his identity and went to Yusha. When the time comes, I will definitely make your boy's body and soul shatter into pieces. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 673. Zhu Yun thought that after killing Tang Tiangang, he would march all the way towards Shiwen Mountain. Passing through the teleportation array in Barren Stone Mountain saved him a lot of time. After about 10 days, Zhu Yun finally set foot on the land of Peeper Realm again. Feeling the completely different spiritual power, Zhu Yun took a greedy breath, and a ray of light burst out from his eyes. It seems that something is different. He has not stopped for the past 10 days. If he wants to rejoin the Fire Dragon sect, he must prepare a talisman to change the world. After finding a corner on the edge of the mountain range, Zhu Yun entered the Immortal Mansion. He first went to the ranch and found Fen Tianyan, and was pleasantly surprised to find that Fen Tianyan's strength had improved a lot. Come to the fire spirit pearl. Maybe I will need your help some time later. Zuyun said. Understood, master. Without saying a word, Fen Tianyan immediately got into Zuyun's left chest. Judging from the tone of his words, it seems that his intelligence has also improved a lot. After leaving the ranch and returning to the cave, Zuyun began to draw the heaven-changing talisman. There are not many advanced materials left. Compared with other talismans, the heaven-changing talisman has many functions, and he has to go to the Yasha realm. If you wait until you are ready to use it, you may not have enough time. Simply, Zuyun drew 5 pictures in one breath and put them into the ring. After preparing all this, he left the immortal mansion, and only a few hours passed in the outside world. It's almost time to set off. I don't know what the current situation of the Fire Dragon sect is. Zhongjiangjao is dead. I don't know if the Zhongjing Congress will be furious. Zuyun took out a talisman and put it on his forehead. In an instant, he turned into Huo Maoang. The Peeper realm is now in turmoil, and Zuyun even knows that all the nascent souls will gather in the Fire Dragon sect. Then only by becoming a disciple of the Fire Dragon sect can one truly get in. And he also learned the purpose of going to Yunzhou from Huo Maoang. As for why he didn't take the monk there, Zuyun had already thought about it on the way here. He decided to blame everything on Tang Tiangang. Even if they have time to investigate, Tang Tiangang is dead, which means he is dead without evidence. Even if you can use the soul-searching technique in the nascent soul stage, so what? After making such complete preparations, Zuyun did not plan to go directly to the Fire Dragon sect, but wanted to go to the nearest city to find out the news. This time, he just wanted to rescue Sun Qiniang, and at most send him to Shiwanda Mountain, and then let Sun Qiniang return to the Fire Dragon sect on her own. As for himself, he diverted to the Yasha realm. After another 2 days, Zuyun arrived at Fangxi. It's only half a day's journey from the Fire Dragon sect. In terms of time, it's totally in time. But as soon as he entered Defang city, a monk shouted in surprise, fellow Taoist, you are here again? Where is your female companion?" Zuyun felt that the voice was somewhat familiar, and couldn't help but turn his head to look. He couldn't help but be stunned. It turned out to be the shopkeeper who sold the spiritual sword that contained the fragments of the Diwu glazed mirror. "Shopkeeper, are you still here?" Zuyun was also very happy. This saved a lot of trouble. "Hey, those of us who are doing business, aren't we running around in these places? I heard that the Beast Pet Pavilion seems not to pursue the matter of that day, so naturally we will go back to our old business. Otherwise, the magic weapons in my hands, can't you smash it in your hand?" At that time, Zuyun came here looking like Huo Maoang. Unexpectedly, what a coincidence. "Ha ha ha," Zuyun said with a smile, "where is the shopkeeper's new spiritual weapon pavilion? I just want to see if there are any magical weapons that I can take advantage of." The shopkeeper pointed to the back. "The new store is right here." Zuyun suddenly looked strange, because the shopkeeper pointed to the store of Beast Pet Pavilion at that time. After being renovated, the scale is much higher than the original Linky Pavilion. The most important thing is that this location is excellent and you can see it as soon as you enter Fangxi. "Fellow Taoist, come in and take a look. I think there are some magic weapons that can penetrate your magic eyes." The shopkeeper was very polite and extended his hand to guide Zuyun through the door. Zuyun had this intention in mind and was not polite. After entering the door, he felt very confident and walked towards the second floor. "This is my first time here, fellow Taoist. How did you know that all the good things are on the second floor?" The shopkeeper had nothing to say. He knew that Zuyun was a big customer and wanted to build relationships so that he could earn some spiritual stones from Zuyun's pocket. "Aren't all good things usually placed on top?" Zuyun replied casually, then looked around and found that the business in this store was indeed much better than before. There are many alchemy monks who are carefully selecting suitable magic weapons. Even if you get to the second floor, there are still several people who are in the den formation stage. Zuyun frowned. This was not suitable for him to inquire about information from the shopkeeper. Unexpectedly, several monks started chatting, and the conversation immediately attracted Zuyun's attention. Tell me, will the demonic sword fairy be killed from the fire dragon sect? I saw a late-stage pill-forming man in green clothes saying. From what I see, the fire dragon sect's vitality is severely damaged, and the nascent soul stage has not yet gathered together. Who in the entire fire dragon sect can take her down? Beside him, another companion in blue said. The two of them were at the same level, and they said while selecting magical weapons. The four words demon sword fairy, coupled with the fire dragon sect, made Zuyun couldn't help but think of Sun Qiniang. But is Sun Qiniang a witch? No, she's not. Zuyun was very sure that Sun Qiniang was not. But what if, Jian Tianming? Suddenly, Zuyun felt a chill in his heart. It's not that he is afraid of Jian Tianming. Even if Jian Tianming is in its heyday, Zuyun will not be afraid at all at this time. But this means that Sun Qiniang's sanity is most likely gone. No, we have to go to the fire dragon sect quickly. These two people also said that there is no nascent soul stage in the fire dragon sect at this time, but it is really possible. Shopkeeper, I suddenly remembered something and I have to leave quickly. Zuyun was about to turn around and leave, but the shopkeeper hurriedly shouted, Fellow Taoist, are you going to rush back to the fire dragon sect to help? I tell you it's better not to go, it's too late. He had always regarded Zuyun as a member of the fire dragon sect, and it was Zuyun who came to exchange him for spiritual stones with a large amount of fire dragon pills. He even thought that Zuyun at this time had returned from training outside and had heard the news about the fire dragon sect from the two people just now. He wanted to go back out of desperation. Too late? What do you mean? Zuyun frowned and stopped. When they heard the shopkeeper's shout, the two monks also looked towards Zuyun, their eyes flickering, with a little evil intention. That female demon sword cultivator is amazingly powerful. It is said that no one under the nascent soul can block her sword. Nowadays, all the cultivators of the fire dragon sect who have some ability are hiding. Everyone is in danger. Zuyun said in a deep voice, the more this happens, the more I want to go back. Is it possible that our fire dragon sect will be destroyed by the hands of the witch? The shopkeeper was kind enough to stop him, but Zuyun missed Sun Qiniang. No matter what Sun Qiniang's current situation is, the sooner she goes back, the more likely it will be for Sun Qiniang to regain control of her body. The shopkeeper wanted to say something else to persuade Zuyun, but the monk in green was the first to speak. Shopkeeper, you can do business at any time, but you shouldn't stop this fellow Taoist's innocent heart. That's right, the companion next to him also echoed, this fellow Taoist is an extraordinary disciple of the fire dragon section from what I can see, let him go back and help. Zuyunhe and others, it seems that these two people are helping him to speak, but it is possible that they have ulterior motives. Zuyun remained silent, and the monk in blue continued, fellow Taoist is so loyal to the sect, and we two brothers admire it very much. The Fire Dragon sect is a large sect in the northwest of Peepa Realm, and we have admired it for a long time. If you, Taoist, or if you don't suggest it, we two brothers are willing to do our best. Zuyun raised his eyebrows and suddenly understood. I'm afraid this means killing people and seizing treasures. They must have seen the shopkeeper's enthusiasm for them and guessed something. Fortunately, I don't have time to pry for information, so let's see what tricks you want to play. Zuyun pretended to be happy and said, then thank you two fellow Taoists. When I return to the Fire Dragon sect, I will definitely get some elixirs from the Elixir Pavilion to express my gratitude. Fellow Taoist can actually obtain elixirs from the elixir pavilion. Another monk said in surprise. That's natural, Zuyun patted his chest and said in an arrogant tone, I am the second most powerful figure in the Dan pavilion after Elder Dan, and I am usually a deacon disciple with real power. Fellow Taoist is amazing. The two of them flattered each other and put down their magical weapons at the same time. The monk in blue urged, Fellow Taoist, let's set off quickly. I didn't expect to meet the disciples of the Fire Dragon Sect's Dan pavilion here. It's really me good luck waiting for you. Ha ha ha, let's go then. Zuyun waved his hand and flew directly out of the window. The two monks glared at the shopkeeper fiercely before following him. Fellow Taoist Huo, wait for me. After a long time, the shopkeeper shook his head and sighed, this fellow Huo Taoist seems to have never heard of the name of the Xianxia of the Northwest, they are robbers who kill without batting an eye and leave no evidence behind. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 674. After leaving the market for about 100 miles, the two finally caught up with Zuyun. It wasn't because they were fast, but because Zuyun deliberately slowed down. Brother, this place is deserted and uninhabited, it's a good place to take action. What do you think, should we follow him to the Fire Dragon sect to get some elixirs first, or kill him here to silence him? The blue-clothed monk said in a unique way. Going to the Fire Dragon sect with him, isn't that courting death? The power of the demon sword fairy is so strange and unpredictable. The Fire Dragon sect gathered all the Jindan stage people in the sect but didn't find anyone. Instead, many were killed. That's why they all hid. What if the demon sword fairy uses us to test the sword? Wouldn't it be a loss? Another cultivator continued, in short, no matter whether what Huo Maoang said is true or false, we should stop while we are ahead and take the things on him. People die for money and birds die for food. We have lived so long, haven't we never been too greedy? Brother is right. Then should we take action directly or talk to him first? Who would talk nonsense if we can take action? Wait, you will follow him from the left and talk to him. After distracting his attention, I will attack his back directly. When he is attacked from both sides, he will definitely die. Okay, then brother, I'll go first. The blue-clothed cultivator immediately condensed spiritual power in his hands and chased to Zuyun's side. Daiyu, are you running out of spiritual power? Why don't you take a break first? Zuyun sneered. The purpose of slowing down was to attack. I think the two men also thought of it. He didn't respond at all. He raised his hand and the chaos sword immediately appeared in his hand. The blue-clothed monk was cut into two pieces. The upper body fell to the ground with incredible fear on his face. At this time, the huge spiritual power behind him came late. Die for me. The spiritual power was mixed with the cruel roar. Obviously, the elder brother didn't expect Zuyun to be so decisive without even opening his mouth and cut his companion into two pieces. Boom! The boundless spiritual power instantly engulfed the place where Zuyun was. Countless smoke and dust condensed into a ball. It was so gray that he didn't notice that a faint purple light flashed. When the smoke and dust dissipated, there was no one here. Where are the people? The monk was shocked. Could it be that Huo Maoang was beaten to pieces by me? Impossible. He could cut a person in two with one sword. Even if he was killed by me, there was no way that no flesh and blood would be left. He looked around, but there was still nothing. The instinctive consciousness told him that the crisis was still there. But where are the people? Are you looking for me? At this time, Zuyun's voice floated over from dozens of feet above his head with the wind. He looked up quickly, but saw Zuyun holding a black sword in both hands, leisurely and condescending. The eyes looking at him were full of indifference. He didn't take him seriously at all. He was very familiar with this look. Countless times, he faced his prey like this. But at this time, the prey was him. Escape. This word popped up in his mind uncontrollably. But the reaction of his body told him that he couldn't escape. The younger brother who was killed was at the same level as him, and his strength was not much weaker, but he was killed by Zuyun with one sword. He didn't believe that he could escape safely. Otherwise, the other party would not look at him like this. Daiyu, why is this happening? There is no way to retreat, so he can only paralyze the other party's mind first, and then find an opportunity. Why? Don't you know why? Zuyun's body slowly fell. Just now, when the attack of this cultivator engulfed him, Zuyun immediately used the thunder escape technique to escape upwards. In a flash, if he was a little slower, Zuyun would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Admittedly, because he had swallowed some body-shaping pills, his physical strength was stronger than that of the general Jindan stage. But facing the attack of a cultivator who was slightly higher than his realm, he couldn't bear it. However, as long as he could react and face it head-on. Even if the Yuanying stage was ahead, he didn't need to worry. Judging from the tacit understanding between the two men, they must have killed many monks before. In this case, what else is there to say? The oppressive feeling from above made the monk feel very uncomfortable. Especially the previous sword, which had the effect of killing a chicken to scare the monkey. But Zuyun knew that this kind of person would do anything to survive, even if he temporarily surrendered now, it was just to find an opportunity to kill. Zuyun knew this very well. Because he was also such a person. It's just that he was just trying to survive, not to kill people and steal treasures. As his body got closer and closer, the pupils of this Jindan period were shrinking, enough to show his nervous expression at this time. This is the effect that Zuyun wanted. Otherwise, how could he get the news of the fire dragon sect from him later? Daiyu, my brother obviously wanted to care about you, but you took action directly. This matter, if you don't give an explanation, how can I explain it to him? Jindan period wanted to reason, so as to reverse the situation that was extremely unfavorable to him at this time. Unfortunately, Zuyun would never give him a chance. Explanation? How about I apologize to you and then send you down to tell him? Zuyun said calmly. Normally, this would have been a very funny joke. But he is the protagonist of this joke, and he is clearly going to die. Fellow Daoist Huo, do you think that people from the Fire Dragon sect can use their power to bully others? Jidan Qi took a step back and reached for his waist. If Zuyun really prevents him from finding a chance, then he can only choose to fight hard. I didn't bully others with my strength, Zuyun shook his head and said disdainfully, I bullied others with my strength. You. Jidan Kai thought there was some turning point in his words, but in the end, he almost choked at Zuyun's words, but the words that followed still made him extremely uncomfortable, and he couldn't speak at all. You want to kill me, Zuyun said calmly, if you want to kill me, then you go ahead. If you don't do it, how do you know if you can kill me? He continued to stimulate this elixir formation period. No matter whether the opponent makes a move or not, Zuyun already has the absolute upper hand. Both in terms of momentum and psychology. Fellow Daoist, you misunderstood. Why should I take action? I just want to seek justice for my brother. We kindly wanted to help you go to the Fire Dragon sect, but you took action without saying a word. Stop acting, Zuyun interrupted him with contempt and said, I'm in a hurry, so I won't talk nonsense to you. Tell me what happened to the Fire Dragon sect these days, and I promise I won't kill him. How about you? Fellow Taoist, you. I don't have time to waste words with you here. Since you don't say anything, I will take action directly. Imagine that you have seen my strength. It only takes one sword to kill your brother. To kill you, I only need one sword. At this time, Zuyun had fallen to the same height as him. He stretched out his hand and raised the sword horizontally. The tip of the Chaos Sword was pointed directly into his eyes. Buzz. At this moment, the Chaos Sword made a clear sound in response to the situation, which invisibly boosted Zhu Yun's momentum. Fellow Taoist, you are not from the Fire Dragon sect. No one from the Fire Dragon sect knows how to use a sword. Looking at the ordinary Chaos Sword, Danja suddenly realized it. This is clearly a sword cultivator. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. He believed that Zhu Yun must have lied to him when he said he was a disciple of some kind of Dan Pavilion. Could his purpose be to fight with the demon sword fairy? I heard that sword cultivators use fighting to improve their understanding of the sword and achieve breakthroughs in the way of the sword. This is why sword cultivators like to fight, and the more they fight, the braver they become. Thinking of this, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. There is unwillingness to be taken advantage of, and there is also resentment over the murder of a brother. But reason tells him that if he wants revenge, he can only borrow the magic sword from the hands of the fairy. It is said that if you are a swordsman, you will become stronger when you encounter someone strong. Then simply tell the truth. A flash of light flashed in Danja Chi's eyes, and he said, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. At least for one day, the demon sword fairy will not leave." Hearing him speak, Zhu Yun put down the Chaos Sword, and placed his other hand naturally on the back of his waist. However, it was impossible for Zhu Yun to relax as he had already held an ice tornado talisman in his palm. Whenever this monk makes any movement, he will immediately throw out the ice tornado talisman. Even if he has a trump card, can he still have the same strength as himself to kill the nascent soul stage? Keep talking. Zhu Yun nodded slightly. The biggest thing happening in the Peeper realm recently, besides the end of the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, is that all nascent souls will gather in the Fire Dragon sect and then attack the Yasha realm. Zhu Yun naturally knew about this news, and he asked, "The nascent soul stage is going to attack the Yasha realm, how do you guys in the Dan formation stage know about it?" If he remembered correctly, this news was quite secretive. How could it be made known to everyone? Fellow Taoist must be practicing hard in the countryside or deep in the mountains and old forests, right? The sect leaders of each major sect have issued notices in their respective territories. Attacking the Yasha realm is a major event for our Peeper realm. The demon cultivators of the Yasha realm may attack our Peeper realm at any time. If all the monks are willing to participate, they can gather at the border mountains. When the time comes, they will join Yasha realm with you and Yinki. As long as there are treasures, it will be first come, first served. The two brothers and I went to that market to pick out magic weapons, and we also wanted to share in the pie. Zhu Yun squinted his eyes. It seemed that things had changed a little within this month. Originally, only nascent soul stage surprise attacks were available, but now all monks in the Peeper realm can go there. Then there is only one possibility. These powerful nascent soul masters in the Peeper realm know that their news has been leaked to the Yasha realm. Without a surprise attack, there is only a strong attack. Only. Gathering the strength of the entire territory to fight Yasha territory, will Dongsheng territory take more advantage? Or, will there be a demon cultivator causing trouble? After thinking for a moment, Zhu Yun suddenly thought of Zhu Feng. Could it be that the tower spirit completely controlled Zhu Feng, and then spread the news to Peeper realm through Zhu Feng? It's really possible. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun couldn't help but feel the hair on his body stand up. Conspiracy, he could only think of two words, conspiracy. But who is the mastermind behind this? He took a deep breath and just threw these distracting thoughts out of his mind, when the monk in front of him suddenly used a spell and came straight towards Zhu Yun's eyebrows. Not good. Zhu Yun exclaimed, it was too late to react. At such a close distance, it is impossible to dodge. Boom. This spell, which actually had all 5 spiritual powers, hit Zhu Yun's head directly, and immediately knocked him down from mid-air. Ha ha ha. Boy, no matter how strong you are, no one told you not to be distracted at any time. The Jindan cultivator laughed wildly. He originally wanted to force Zuyun back and escape. But he didn't expect that he would be hit in one move. It was an unexpected surprise. Just after Zuyun's body landed on the ground, he also fell down suddenly. This is his strongest spell. Zuyun will be seriously injured if he doesn't die. No matter what the result is, it will not prevent him from taking away all the treasures on Zuyun. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 675. Haha, kid, bring it to you. Zuyun fell to the ground, unable to even hold the chaos sword firmly in his hand, and threw it aside. His whole head was buzzing. But when he heard that the pill-forming monk was bullying him again, his consciousness of survival suddenly awakened him. Chaos Palm. The ice tornado talisman he held in his hand earlier was thrown away unknown where. Seeing that the opponent was about to fall to the ground, he suddenly stretched out his palm. In the lower abdomen, the gap of the chaos seed spewed out spiritual power crazily, and then poured into the palm. Bang! This is a move that can kill the nascent soul stage. At such a close distance, how can it be done in the Dan formation stage? At this moment, all the endless spiritual power blasted into his chest, creating a bloody hole. After just one breath, blood poured out of the hole crazily and sprayed Zuyun in the face. And he also fell heavily and fell beside Zuyun. With a look of disbelief on his face, he died unwillingly at this stage of pill formation. Zuyun was breathing heavily. The shock caused by the previous hit between his eyebrows had not completely calmed down. He used the chaos palm again, and his body became a little more uncomfortable. But fortunately, the crisis has finally been resolved. I don't know if this place will attract others, so I have to recover quickly. After taking a breath, Zuyun put away the chaos sword and entered the immortal mansion without hesitation. He walked out of the cave and sat on the edge of the void. Then he sat down cross-legged and began to refine chi and heal his injuries. As the chaos clock slowly rotated, the chaos power in the void slowly entered his body and circulated around him. At this time, a shirtless and muscular man stood outside. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Strange, I went around in a circle, why is there no one there? His eyes lowered and once again fell on the corpse with a huge hole in the chest. The movement was so loud just now, but the whole body was not beaten into blood foam, but a blood hole was left behind. This is enough to show that the person who did it has extremely sophisticated control of spiritual power. I think it was Yuaninki who did it, but if it was Yuaninki, why did he take off his pants and fart, which is unnecessary? It would be more labor-saving to just smash him to pieces, right? At the most critical moment, even I felt the terrifying power of that power. The man raised his head and looked to the west, and suddenly his body twisted and turned into a golden rock bird. Forget it, let's find them first. As soon as the words fell, the golden rock bird disappeared. A few miles away, a golden light point gradually disappeared. He is none other than Aniao. At that time, Zhu Feng was in the demon refining tower and destroyed all 12 statues in order to prepare for practicing the 9 generations of demonic skills. It is precisely because of this that Aniao's spiritual intelligence, which has been suppressed, comes out of the tower and returns to Aniao himself. When Mengwei and Sun Qiniang saw the shooting star, it was actually the falling bird that suddenly received his own intelligence and memory. At this time, Aniao had completely remembered what happened before he was suppressed. But in fact, he still belongs to 2 parts. Part of it is a small part of his intelligence that was redifferentiated after he was suppressed in the demon refining tower. That part of the spiritual intelligence is the tower spirit that wants to seize the body of Zhu Feng. The reason why Aniao did not leave the mortal world and return to the spiritual world was actually because he wanted to regain that small part of his spiritual wisdom. Only in this way can his demon soul be truly complete and he can go to the spirit world to continue cultivating. After regaining consciousness, Aniao went to Chuzhu, but found that the demon refining tower had disappeared. Without a clue, he wanted to find Sun Suanhua nearby. But after arriving at Yejiakan, they found out that Sun Suanhua had already left, and no one knew where he had gone. Under such circumstances, I thought of going to the Fire Dragon sect to find Mengwei and Sun Qiniang. I also remembered that the two women dared to enter the Fire Dragon sect because they used him as a trump card to escape at any time. In his huge memory, Mengwei may not be anything. But in the mortal world, he believed that only Mengwei could give him some help. As for Sun Qiniang, it is not too important to him. It's just that Aniao is doomed to be disappointed. Mengwei has already returned to Yunzhou with Zuyun. A moment after Aniao left, Zuyun finally fully recovered and carefully walked out of the immortal mansion. Hey, there is evil spirit here. Zuyun's perception was so sharp that he immediately concentrated his mind, held the chaos sword tightly in his hand, and used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique. At this special moment, what he has been worried about is the demon cultivator in Dongsheng realm. But looking around, the demonic aura gradually dissipated, and Zuyun didn't find any trace. Even if the demon cultivators from the Dongsheng realm really want to attack, they will probably do so after both the Yasha realm and the Pipa realm are defeated. This demonic aura may just be attracted by the smell of blood. Zuyun pondered for a moment, then felt relieved, jumped up, and flew towards the Fire Dragon sect. Right now, no matter what, we should rescue Sun Qiniang first. For more than 200 miles, Zuyun flew at full speed, and it only took him an hour to land directly at the mountain gate of the Fire Dragon sect. There was no one on duty at the mountain gate at this time, so I thought the news I had learned was accurate. The magic sword fairy really killed everyone and made them hide. His eyes were focused, and he suddenly flew up again, more than a few feet above the ground, and then flew in the direction of Den Pavilion. He wanted to use himself as bait to lure out the demon sword fairy. No matter whether she was Sun Qiniang or Jian Tianming. When he first came here, the Fire Dragon sect was so lively, but after a short time, the things that happened one after another made the Fire Dragon sect at this time no different from some dilapidated sects. All the way here, there were ruins everywhere. Occasionally, you can see sword marks on the ground. Zuyun has been using the breaking void spirit eye technique, and can see that there is some undissipated golden spiritual power left in the sword marks, and he is even more certain in his heart. He flew to the Den Pavilion, and the house of the Den Pavilion has been almost destroyed. Hearing the noise of someone coming here, several heads suddenly popped out of the Den cave. Seeing that it was Zuyun who had transformed into Huo Maoang, they shouted in surprise and joy, "Brother Maoang, come to the cave quickly. Brother Maoang, don't fly, it will be over if the demon sword fairy comes." "Yes, Brother Maoang, this is the cave of Elder Dan, she can't get in." The disciples shouted, but they didn't know that Zuyun wanted to lure Sun Qiniang out. However, the kindness of these disciples surprised him a little. Perhaps it was because of Huo Maoang's relationship with Lian Nishang, and his status was not low. Zuyun smiled slightly, declined their kindness, and didn't explain anything, and flew towards the valley. If the guess was right, it must be there. Not long after, Zuyun had entered the valley. This place has long been different. Not only is there no formation in the valley, but it is also dilapidated. In the pit blasted out by Zuyun's self-destruction array, the underground fire magma exuded a scorching fire breath. Zuyun looked around, trying to find traces of human activities here. Soon, he found a series of footprints leading to the main array eye of the mountain protection array. Zuyun's mind sank, thinking that he had now turned into the appearance of Huo Maoang, and it would be inappropriate if he used the Chaos Sword again. He simply took out the folding fan and walked slowly towards the depths of the valley. At the same time, he slightly separated his mind and formed a connection with the burning sky flame, telling him that he might be asked to take action at any time. After feeling that everything was in place, Zuyun quickened his pace and came to the Iron Chain Bridge. Under the Iron Chain Bridge, it was originally the residence of the mountain guardian beast Fire Dragon. Unfortunately, the Fire Dragon became the spirit of the Fire Dragon staff. However, the body of the Fire Dragon has been thrown into the ring by Zuyun. And deep in the Iron Chain Bridge is Qi Fuxian's retreat. But Qi Fuxian cannot be in the Fire Dragon sect. Otherwise, how could Sun Qiniang do whatever she wants? After stepping onto the Iron Chain Bridge, Zuyun stopped and pondered for a moment, and decided to go deeper into it. Based on his understanding of Jian Tianming, if he still stayed in the Fire Dragon sect, he was very likely hiding in Qi Fuxian's retreat. But now, the enemy is in the open and we are in the dark, and Jian Tianming's sword is extremely fast. Zuyun can only be on guard as much as possible. But just as he walked across the Iron Chain Bridge, the hot spiritual power in the air suddenly became frantic. Then, a cold and ruthless female voice echoed in the cave, and endless murderous intent rushed towards him from all directions. Someone actually came to me to die. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 676. Sword Destiny. Zuyun couldn't help but scream in his heart. Such a tone is undoubtedly Jian Tianming. Zuyun didn't even wait for Jian Tianming to take action. He swung out the folding fan with his right hand and danced towards the palm that opened almost at the same time. Whoops! A strong wind blew past, and the flames condensed from the fire spirit beads immediately rose up, forming a shield around Zuyun. The boundless sword energy rushed onto the shield with a loud bang. Boom! Fire power and sword energy were intertwined, and the momentum in the entire cave was extremely wild, like a storm above the sea, raging crazily on the ground and cave walls. Some gravel was brought up and thrown at Zuyun, but was instantly turned into a small ball of magma by the fire shield, and then splashed to the ground. Inside the dark cave, there are dots of fire. A good method. This is much better than those who were killed by me in the core forming stage. But in my eyes, Jian Tianming, they are still useless. Peeper Realm monks are nothing more than that. Jian Tianming snorted coldly, and his figure finally appeared. The sword in his hand surprised Zuyun. Spirit sword. Sword destiny, how can there be a spiritual sword? In other words, how could Sun Qiniang have a spiritual sword? He had no idea that after Sun Qiniang and Meng Wei joined the sect, they picked up a handful from Qi Fuxian. Later, Sun Qiniang was deceived by Zhong Jingguo and placed under house arrest, while Meng Wei was taken into the secret realm of the Book of Heaven by Zhong Jiangjiao. In the dark place, calling the sky and the earth to respond, and worried about Meng Wei's situation, Sun Qiniang's mind was relaxed, and finally Jian Tianming, who had been hiding for a long time, found the opportunity, and thus took control of her body in one fell swoop. Originally, Jian Tianming could not break out of the confinement place of Zhong Jingguo, but who would have thought that Sun Qiniang actually had a spiritual sword in her hand? This spiritual sword was not refined by Qi Fuxian, but by Feng and He. This is a long sword made for the nascent soul stage, and its power is naturally comparable to that of ordinary spiritual weapons. Under such circumstances, Jian Tianming broke through the confinement in one fell swoop. After discovering that the Fire Dragon sect did not have nascent soul in charge and would not be back in a short time, she began to take revenge madly. Jian Tianming has a cold nature, and he must retaliate. He also knows that this is the Peeper Realm. After killing a few people, he feels that the monks in the Peeper Realm are just mediocre. Sword cultivation is based on fighting, how could she miss this opportunity? The Fire Dragon sect disciples who stayed here were not very good at fighting, and they had never seen a sword cultivator. How could they be their opponents? After a few days like this, they all hid in order to survive. They could only hope that the Yuanying period in the sect would come back soon. Jian Tianming simply found this place and began to digest the insights he gained in the way of swordsmanship in the past few days, so as to improve himself again. I just didn't expect that someone would actually find this place. Of course she won't let it go. You are right, the monks in the Peeper realm are indeed nothing more than mediocre. Zhu Yun snorted coldly, and continued to dance with his right hand to increase the intensity of the flames on the shield, but when he said these words, Jian Tianming heard other meanings. Why, you don't like the monks in the Peeper realm either? Jian Tianming slashed the sword in his hand towards the shield at will, and asked lightly. Zhu Yun said calmly, indeed, is it a very honorable thing for you, a sword cultivator, to bully some alchemy masters? For me, there is no difference. If you can use spiritual power, you are a monk. I, Sword Destiny, take sword as my surname and my destiny as my name, because I want to hold my destiny in my own sword. Fire Dragon sect, I want to. If you want to imprison me, if you don't have good intentions, how can I let you go? What you said is simple. Aren't you afraid of the nascent soul stage coming back? Afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Ancestor Yuanying can run rampant in the Peeper realm, so I'm naturally very afraid. Unfortunately, I know they won't come back in a short time. However, you reminded me that they will be coming back tomorrow. Day. Jian Tianming said this, but his hands didn't stop at all, slashing at the shield with one sword after another. Every time the sword is struck, some fire power will be dispersed. But how mellow is the fire spirit power in Zhu Yun's fire spirit bead? If you want to break through it in a short time, this intensity is simply not enough. So, do you just want to kill me and then leave? Zhu Yun also said easily. It seems, do you think I can't break your shield? Jian Tianming's eyebrows suddenly tightened, but he showed a look of disdain. Your shield is quite mysterious. It is unheard of to use fire as a shield. But no matter what attribute it is all made of spiritual power. Although my sword, Tianming, has a single spiritual root of the metal system, it is overcome by fire. Unfortunately, my cultivation it's not the power of the golden spirit, but the power of the sword. Wherever the sword goes, it will go anywhere. As he spoke, there was a sudden buzzing sound on the spiritual sword. Not only did it flash with golden light, but there was also the sound of wind all around. The wind was so strong that it even blew away Zhu Yun's fire shield. This is wind spiritual power. Zhu Yun's expression changed. Does Jian Tianming know the power of wind? This is impossible. How did he know that the sword was made by Feng and he, and that the Feng family all have single spiritual roots of the wind element? The sword that was made was naturally related to the wind. Jian Tianming didn't know what was unique about this sword. Instead, he discovered its function while using this sword to fight against the Fire Dragon sect's people, so he made use of it. How the sharpness of gold and the lightness of wind blend together is the main reason why Jian Tianming is sitting here to comprehend. Seeing Zhu Yun's expression change, Jian Tianming's cold face showed a proud smile. You probably don't know, this sword is actually a spirit sword. After I kill you and leave this place, I will find a way to refine it into my life spirit sword. By then, if there is really a nascent soul coming, I, Jian Tianming, will also be able to kill it. Therefore, the cultivators of the Peeper realm are nothing more than that. Arrogant. Zhu Yun shouted angrily, he wanted Jian Tianming to die very much. But if Jian Tianming escaped today and went to fight the nascent soul without knowing what to do, if she died, it would be equivalent to never being able to save Sun Qiniang again. Suddenly, he no longer pretended, and pulled off the heaven and earth changed talisman on his forehead, revealing his true face. Zuyun. Jian Tianming's face changed drastically, and he immediately recognized it, and the spirit sword in his hand shook violently. But then, she showed a grim smile. No wonder, you would say that the cultivators of Peeper Realm are nothing special. You, a cultivator from Yunzhou, can sneak into the Fire Dragon sect, so I, who came from Yao Realm, am stronger, right? Old friends meet, so I, Jian Tianming, will give you a gift. After saying that, Jian Tianming turned the sword, and the spiritual power around him became more frantic, and he pounced on Zuyun fiercely. The fire shield exploded instantly, and Jian Tianming actually held back. Is this her strength, or the strength of the spiritual sword? Zuyun's face was grim. Since his true face was revealed, how could he hold back? Spirit sword? Humph. With a cold snort from Zuyun, the chaos sword immediately appeared in Zuyun's hand. You are a rare genius in Wanjian Mountain, why don't you take a look at my sword from Yunzhou Spirit Sword Sect? As soon as the voice fell, Zuyun stabbed it flatly. The chaos sword met the opponent's spiritual sword. Huh. At first glance, Jian Tianming felt that the sword was too casual. But when she found that she couldn't break the stab no matter what sword moves she used, her face changed suddenly. With her talent in swordsmanship, she immediately understood that Zuyun's sword was not simple. What kind of sword trick is this? Jian Tianming couldn't break the move with his sword, so he quickly stepped back with his sword steps and asked sternly. Zuyun sneered disdainfully, why, you, the swordsmanship genius, can't recognize what kind of sword trick this is. Playing tricks. Zuyun, I don't know where you learned the sword trick from, and you dare to compete with me, a sword cultivator. Jian Tianming took a tricky sword step, and after pulling away from Zuyun's move, he immediately turned around and attacked Zuyun from the other side. With the blessing of the spirit sword, her speed was even faster. When she was about to stab Zuyun's right hand, she didn't expect that Zuyun's wrist shook slightly. The chaos sword suddenly raised its head like a dark spirit snake. The tip of the sword. It hit the tip of her spirit sword. You, this broken sword, dare to compete with my spiritual sword. Jian Tianming shouted coldly, condensing his spiritual power and madly passing it into it. But how could she know that the chaos sword was an immortal sword? Boom! A huge force burst out from nowhere and directly blasted Jian Tianming out. Puff! With an unbelievable look, Jian Tianming simply couldn't believe that he would be the one injured. Isn't this a spiritual sword? Why? It's vulnerable. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 677. After knowing that it was Zuyun, Jian Tianming didn't take him seriously at all. Even if Zuyun used the Wuji sword technique. Even though she saw that the ordinary sword moves were definitely not ordinary sword skills, in Jian Tianming's understanding, the sword cultivator was by no means just a monk holding a sword and using sword skills. But why would he be injured? Although she was injured, there was a dazed look in her eyes. Jian Tianming, Wan Jianshan, is this all they have? Zuyun also panted slightly. Although the chaos sword is an immortal sword, in fact, what Zuyun can use at this time is only the indestructible attribute of the chaos sword. He has never mastered any characteristics of the chaos sword, not even the sword spirit. But fortunately, he defeated Jian Tianming. Seeing that the other party seemed a little distracted, Zuyun did not rush forward to fight. His purpose has never been to kill Jian Tianming. He will make a decision only if he ensures that Sun Qiniang is safe and sound. Therefore, he wanted to use words to make Jian Tianming lose his mind. Perhaps in this way, we can give Sun Qiniang the opportunity to counterattack. Of course, the premise of this is that Sun Qiniang's soul has not completely died. Wanjian Mountain, Jian Tianming, I take sword as my surname and my destiny as my name, How could I lose to the sword? To Zhu Yun's expectation, Jian Tianming was inspired to fight by him. I saw a fighting spirit suddenly burst out in her eyes, and her piercing eyes were instantly locked on Zhu Yun. You alone dare to talk about me, Wan Jianshan? You are seeking death. Jian Tianming stood up and stabbed Zhu Yun with the spiritual sword in his hand at an extremely precise angle. Why not? Zhu Yun stepped back with the immortality technique and retreated easily. The void-breaking spirit eye technique was mysterious and boundless, and he could directly see through Jian Tianming's killing move. He even went on to say, Wanjian Mountain no longer exists, could it be that you don't have any support? As soon as these words came out, Jian Tianming's body suddenly shook and he couldn't stand the passage. What did you say? I said, Wanjian Mountain is gone. Wanjian Ren died in the secret realm of Zilang Peak. Sword 1 died in the hands of the Peepa Realm Demon Cultivator. There are also Sword 2, Sword 3, until Sword 20, all are dead. Zhu Yun's every word is like a giant hammer hitting Jian Tianming's chest. No, it's impossible. It's impossible. I, Wanjian Mountain, have ancient inheritance, how can it be possible for our sect to be destroyed? She couldn't believe it. Wan Jianshan was clearly in charge of the entire Yezhu, so why did he end up in such a situation? You're lying to me. Yes, that's right, you're lying to me. Jian Tianming was crazy, his eyes turned scarlet, and his delicate facial features were twisted into a ball. Wan Jianshan is not only her home, but also her belief. But even Zhu Yun didn't know that Jian Tianming took advantage of the situation and took control of the body, but was discovered by Sun Qiniang. Because of this, she did not take away Sun Qiniang's memory. Otherwise, Jian Tianming will definitely not stay in Peepa Realm, and will return to Yezhu no matter what, and shake Wanjian Mountain again. Lie to you? Do I need to lie to you? Zhu Yun was secretly happy in his heart. He was originally thinking of some reason to make her lose her mind, but he didn't expect that the mention of Wan Jianshan would make her react like this. You want to lie to me and then expose my flaws. Zhu Yun, you underestimate my sword destiny. After saying that, Jian Tianming took a cunning sword step and suddenly appeared behind Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun subconsciously wanted to use the chaos sword to block, but a flash of light suddenly flashed in his heart, and he used the thunder escape technique and escaped 200 steps away. When the figure appeared again, he made a face at Jian Tianming. Luan Luo, you can't hit me, you can't hit me. He is not without the power to counterattack. The Wuji sword technique can defeat all sword moves. And the void-breaking spiritual eye technique can see through the essence of all things. No matter how strong Jian Tianming is, he is only in the pill-forming stage and cannot escape Zhu Yun's eyes. Even at the nascent soul stage, under the influence of the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, it will be much slower. He didn't fight back, he just wanted to make the sword Tianming unable to be used, so he became angry and lost his mind even more. As long as Sun Qiniang's soul is still alive, there is a chance. Or, after consuming the spiritual power of Jian Tianming, everything will be under his control. Sure enough, Zhu Yun's sudden grimace ignited the unknown anger in Jian Tianming's heart. Court death. As the most talented genius in Wanjian Mountain, how has he ever been challenged by such a person? With the spirit sword in hand, she focused her gaze and slashed it from the air. The spiritual sword suddenly glowed with a burst of blue light, and a tornado shot out from the tip of the sword, heading towards Zhu Yunjuan. Good guy. Zhu Yun was stunned. Sword Tianming had a single golden spiritual root, or it had a single spiritual root of ice before, but he had never learned the sword art of the wind. In this way, it is this spiritual sword. Wind attribute. Zhu Yun once again used the thunder escape technique to dodge away, and the tornado just happened to roll over where he was standing before. The ground was suddenly sucked out of a deep pit by strong suction. The tornado that missed the blow immediately dispersed, and all the gravel turned into dust and scattered down. Zuyun, do you only know how to run? Jian Tianming quickly locked onto Zuyun and used his sword again. Tornado. As soon as the tornado left the sword, Jian Tianming fired 3 swords in unison again. In an instant, there were 3 more tornadoes, wrapping around Zuyun in the shape of a pin. The whistling sound roared in the cave, and Zuyun's eyes were solemn. He could escape easily. But if Jian Tianming kept using this trick, I'm afraid that the ground would be riddled with holes in a short time. That's fine, Zuyun was afraid that the main formation would be destroyed. The most important thing was that he was no longer Huo Maoang. The noise was loud, attracting those hiding disciples of the Fire Dragon sect, which was not what he wanted to see. A tornado. Zuyun snorted coldly and took out an ice tornado talisman. Let's see whose tornado is more powerful. After saying that, he crushed the talisman directly. In an instant, the temperature in the cave dropped sharply, and a strong wind blew. Woo woo woo. A larger tornado, with countless ice chips, formed in front of Zuyun, and then rushed towards the 4 small tornadoes. No surprise. The small tornado was immediately sucked into the ice tornado and became a part of it. Seeing this scene, Zuyun was slightly stunned. I thought that my ice tornado was stronger and would defeat several ordinary tornadoes. But I never thought that these tornadoes were sucked into it. If they were all ordinary tornadoes, it would be fine, as they have the same attributes and can be understood. But it is clear that the ice spirit power in this ice tornado is more lethal. Zuyun narrowed his eyes and suddenly realized it in his mind. The ice tornado talisman is originally of ice attribute. So I used ice spirit power to charge my spirit, and subconsciously thought that this was an ice talisman. However, the rapid rotation of the ice spirit power in it brought about the tornado. In other words, the wind spirit power. When Zuyun had a vague understanding, Jian Tianming was secretly shocked. This talisman is so strong. Her eyes tightened, knowing that she could never deal with this ice tornado. She could only temporarily avoid the edge and quickly retreat to the back. But who would have thought that Zuyun would quickly use the thunder escape technique to dodge and come to a place not far behind Jian Tianming. At the same time, he had already pinched a handful of spirit stones in his hand. 9 transformations 9 suns formation, started for me. The spirit stones fell, the formation took shape, and instantly trapped the 2 people in it. Zuyun, you are looking for death. Jian Tianming wanted to retreat, not daring to confront the ice tornado head-on. But unexpectedly, Zuyun actually trapped them together at the same time. What else is there to say? Kill it and it's over. The spirit sword in his hand was swung at Zuyun again. Another tornado. It's just wind spiritual power. Zuyun grinned and actually stretched out his hand to pinch the tornado. Wind is colorless, tasteless, and invisible. Tornadoes are nothing but the rotation of wind spiritual power. This is too simple. Wind spiritual power is spiritual power without attributes. Any spiritual power, as long as it moves, can become wind spiritual power. Gold spiritual power can become wind spiritual power. Water spiritual power can become wind spiritual power. Fire, earth, and wood spiritual power can also become wind spiritual power. Wind is just another surface of other spiritual powers moving. Zuyun's palm inserted into the tornado that was attacking from the front. The whirring tornado disappeared in an instant. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 678. Impossible. This is the magical power on the spiritual sword, how could you break it with your bare hands? Jian Tianming screamed. The fighting spirit that finally got up fell to the bottom again. Zuyun's words before had indeed hit the soft spot in her heart. But what revived her fighting spirit and gave her the faith to persevere was the spiritual sword in her hand. In the past few days of slaughter and enlightenment, she felt that she had understood the power of this spiritual sword. It is true that Jian Tianming is a person who understands swords, a person who is crazy about swords, and a person who loves swords. But after Zuyun realized the power of wind spirit, this single attribute wind-type spiritual sword refined by Feng, and he no longer threatened Zuyun at all. Nothing is impossible. Zuyun couldn't suppress the surprise in his eyes and pretended to be calm. If my guess is correct, your spiritual sword did not originally belong to you. In other words, it did not originally belong to Sun Qiniang. Do you know the origin of this sword? Jian Tianming was stunned, and the expression on his face solidified. Of course, if my guess is correct, this sword comes from the sword refining sect. They are all monks with single spiritual roots of the wind system. They are from a single lineage and have been refining spiritual swords all their lives. Naturally, the swords they refined, it will be a wind-attributed spiritual sword. Zuyun said lightly. How do you know so clearly? Me? Because I have better luck than you. Maybe I know the person who refined this sword. Then I can naturally crack your spiritual sword. Do you think that on the path to immortality, hard work can mean everything? Zuyun's words destroyed Jian Tianming's Taoist heart. Whether it was from Meng Wei's mouth or from Sun Qiniang's memory, what Zuyun could learn about Jian Tianming was that she was an idiot who was obsessed with practicing swordsmanship. In order to be promoted, she is withdrawn and does not take anyone in the world seriously. Zuyun used this as a breakthrough. No. No. My master told me, there is a road to the Sword Mountain, and hard work is the path to the Sword Mountain, and there is no end to the Sea of Dao, and the boat is made of hard work. Jian Tianming's eyes have lost their luster. At that moment, Jian Tianming did not doubt Zuyun's words. But the cold reality told him that Zuyun seemed to be right. Naturally, she knew that this spiritual sword was a wind-attributed spiritual sword. Otherwise, she would not be able to comprehend the magical powers and spells belonging to the sword. But what Zuyun said was simply the reality in front of him. In the Dan formation stage, I haven't even used my spiritual power with my bare hands, but I can destroy a magical power at will. This is no different than a monk in the Qi refining stage killing the ancestor of nascent soul. Facts that seemed like a fantasy were witnessed by her with her own eyes. The extremely contradictory scene finally destroyed her Taoist heart. Jian Tianming, full of strength, disappeared at this moment. Her legs weakened and she fell to her knees with a plop. She is not kneeling down to wish Yun. But the Dao heart is destroyed. It was ruined by a few words from Zuyun. But how strong is Jian Tianming? As long as you give her some time, maybe she can get out of this. But the sword suddenly flew towards Zuyun, and landed in Zuyun's hand as if to please, becoming the last straw that broke the sword's destiny. You said, your name is Feng Long Jian. A spiritual sword has spirit, and only then can it be a spiritual sword. Since there is a sword spirit, the spirit sword will have its own thoughts and can actively communicate with people. But whether it is a sword spirit or a weapon spirit, they all have their own arrogance. Feng Long Jian took the initiative to communicate with Zuyun and told him his name. Jian Tianming completely collapsed. He was still kneeling before, but now he collapsed on the ground. To her, the destruction of Taoist heart is tantamount to the collapse of the sky. Because this sword is indeed called the Wind Dragon Sword. That was when she realized the magical power of the sword. It has to be said that Jian Tianming is uniquely talented in Kendo. In the state of merging the human sword with the Wind Dragon Sword, you can learn a spell by merging yourself with the Wind Dragon Sword by about 10%. But at this time, Zuyun directly said the name of Wind Dragon Sword. What does this mean? He is not as good as Zuyun in swordsmanship. At this point, she had misunderstood Zuyun. Even Zuyun himself thinks that he has a fart talent. It's nothing more than taking advantage of the difference in time flow in the immortal mansion. the special skills practiced in the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, and other means to dominate others. Fen Glongjian took the initiative to show his kindness and abandoned the sword and left the destiny. This was either related to his understanding of the power of wind spirit, or it is inseparable from the sword fairy chaos sword. But no matter what, this is a good thing for Zhu Yun. He was not polite at all, put away the wind dragon sword, threw it into the ring, and then looked at Jian Tianming with piercing eyes. It seems that my mouth is quite powerful. I almost killed people with my mouth. Seeing that Jian Tianming had no power to resist, Zhu Yun felt secretly proud and walked forward slowly. Jian Tianming remained motionless, like a dead fish. Zhu Yun took a deep breath, his face became serious, he stretched out his hand and put it on the back of Jian Tianming's head. A ray of spiritual consciousness and soul power was separated and penetrated into Jian Tianming's zifu. Soon, he saw a strange and bizarre scene. In the Zi mansion, purple brilliance is flying everywhere, but the speed is extremely slow. He knew that this was the soul of this body. To be precise, it should be regarded as Sun Qinyang's soul. This part of the soul, except for Sun Qinyang's memory, is used to control the body and use spiritual power. What should I do? Zhu Yun frowned, he had never encountered such a situation. But even if he had encountered it, he would still be at a loss. The situation in the Zi mansion, if you are not careful, even the ancestor of Yuanying may become an idiot. This is not what Zhu Yun expected to see. If so, then why did he put so much effort into fighting Jian Tianming and finally win by just saying it? Try it first and then figure it out. Zhu Yun once again channeled some of his soul power and tried to gather these soul fragments together in Zifu. But just 2 pieces were gathered here, and when I wanted to put the third piece together, the ones gathered in the front fell apart again. Pay attention to one thing and miss the other. No, over time, even if Sun Qinyang is revived, I'm afraid her soul will still be damaged, and she will be left with brain disease. She will have convulsions from time to time and slash me with a sword, which will not be good. Zhu Yun thought hard, but he knew nothing about the soul. Although my soul power is a little stronger than others, but, wait. Suddenly, Zhu Yun's eyes lit up and he thought of a way. Puppet soul control pill. Don't I still have it? This can leave a mark on the soul, maybe I can give it a try. In the current situation, Zhu Yun could only act as a living doctor, but luckily he had a lot of people left at that time. Withdrawing all his spiritual consciousness and soul power, Zhu Yun quickly took out a soul control pill and stuffed it into Sun Qinyang's mouth. Then he used spiritual power to help her swallow it into her lower abdomen, and then put her palm on it to help her dissolve the medicine. The potency of the medicine is divided into 2. Part of the medicinal power began to purify the golden spiritual power in her body, while the other part rushed towards Zi mansion. Zhu Yun once again put his spiritual consciousness into it and saw an incredible scene. The dead horse was cured and revived. I saw that this medicinal power was unable to leave any mark on any of the soul fragments when it first entered, and it actually started to pull the fragments over on its own initiative. Until the medicine can leave a mark on the soul. But at this time, all the fragments had come together again. At this moment, a flash of brilliance suddenly burst out from the depths of Zi mansion. After circling around Zhu Yun's spiritual consciousness for a few times, it also merged into his soul. Is this, the part of Sun Qinyang's hidden soul? Zhu Yun felt happy and quickly withdrew his spiritual consciousness. After just a moment, Sun Qinyang opened her eyes and spoke with joy. Zhu Yun, Zanjiao, see you. Zhu Yun was stunned when he heard this weird accent and the fact that Sun Qinyang was drooling while talking. There is no doubt about it. This must be the sequelae of having your soul torn apart. What to do? Take medicine. Just stay alive, just stay alive. Be good and take the medicine. Zhu Yun took out another puppet soul control pill and motioned for Sun Qinyang to take it. Sun Qinyang has great trust in Zuyun. Her memory stayed at the moment when Jian Tianming took away control of her body. Since Zuyun appeared in front of him at this time, it was obviously Zuyun who saved his life. She didn't have any precautions and swallowed the soul control pill in one gulp. After digesting the power of the medicine, Sun Qinyang no longer drooled when she spoke. This made Zuyun extremely excited. It seemed that he had the potential to become a medical monk. Come again, we must cure the disease, we must cure it. The soul control pill in Zuyun's hand was like free jelly beans for Sun Qinyang to take. He thought that as long as he didn't turn Sun Qinyang into a puppet through his soul imprint, accidents would never happen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 679. After swallowing half of the soul control pill, Sun Qinyang finally became normal. However, the imprint left on her soul is not small. Zuyun, you saved my life again. Sun Qinyang looked at Zuyun and said quietly. Zuyun was a little embarrassed and said, if you hadn't saved me, you wouldn't have come to the Peeper realm and fallen into danger. Sun Qinyang chuckled twice and said, you know? Did Ergo tell you? Have you returned to Yunzhou or? Well, Lingjian sect is doing well now. I still have important matters to attend to. The Peeper realm may be in danger. You should return to Lingjian sect to practice as soon as possible. This is something Zuyun has thought about for a long time. Sun Qinyang said, no, I won't go back to Yunzhou. Mengwei and I went to the Fire Dragon sect to look for you. She is very likely to be in danger now. Zuyun straightened his face and shouted, Wei is also in the Lingjian sect. And so is my master. They are all in the Lingjian sect. That's why I let you go back. In at least 6 hours, there will be a large number of people in the Fire Dragon section. The nascent soul stage is gathering here, it's time for me to leave. Where are you going? After hearing that Mengwei was fine and that Zuyun had met them one after another, Sun Qinyang couldn't help but feel relieved and asked with a smile. I told you, I have to go do something, and it's not convenient to take you with me. Zuyun shook his head and said, hurry back to Lingjian sect, the Peeper realm is not suitable for your cultivation now. Hearing this, Sun Qinyang also lost her temper and said, why, now that your realm is higher than mine, you are talking louder to me? I tell you Zuyun, with your feet on me, I can go wherever I want. Why do you want to go back to Lingjian sect? I am not the sect leader of Lingjian sect. Zuyun had veins popping out on his forehead. He knew Sun Qinyang, and after deciding on one thing, even 10 cows could not be pulled back. He was so stubborn. I want to drive her away, but I really can't. Originally, he planned to go to Huaitan Valley and follow Feng Anhe to get some news. It was indeed inconvenient to take Sun Qinyang with him. Feng Anhe and Ting Feng Mozhen are a pair. Who knows what will happen this time? If he was alone, it would be easy to run away. But Sun Qinyang is different. Just when she was so entangled, Sun Qinyang suddenly said, by the way, Zuyun, you killed the sword Tianming. Have you seen her sword? Sword. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, then thought about it, took out the wind dragon sword from the ring and threw it over. Here is the sword. Take it. This is the spiritual sword. Where did you get it? After Sun Qinyang took it, Zuyun immediately asked, and at the same time he had some thoughts in his mind. Perhaps, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take Sun Qinyang to Huaitan Valley with her. The sword was taken from Qi Fuxian, the supreme elder of the Fire Dragon section. Mengwei got a fake fire spirit bead. The spirit sword was lost and recovered, and Sun Qinyang played with it with a look of joy. Pseudo fire spirit bead? Zuyun vaguely felt that something was wrong, but Meng Wei was currently in Lingjian sect and could not go back for the time being. But with several people from the Fire Dragon sect there shouldn't be any problems, right? After recovering his thoughts, Zuyun said, "Then I will take you to see a senior. The Wind Dragon sword in your hand is most likely made by him. Don't talk nonsense when you arrive, remember. That's natural. I, Sun Qiniang, have a sense of propriety." Sun Qiniang was extremely happy when she heard that Zuyun was willing to go with her. The two of them immediately set off and quickly flew towards the outside of the Fire Dragon sect. The disciples who were hiding everywhere shrank when they saw Sun Qiniang flying by again. They don't know that the sword Heavenly Destiny, who is known as the Demon Sword Fairy, no longer exists. The monks who had seen Sun Qiniang join the sect at that time had all been killed when they stepped forward to question her when Jian Tianming had just taken control of Sun Qiniang's body. Therefore, no one knows Sun Qiniang. After leaving the Fire Dragon sect, Zuyun and Sun Qiniang quickly landed and decided to go on foot. If we continue flying, we are very likely to encounter some nascent soul stage coming towards us. Zuyun plans to fly again the next day. As for the battle between Peepa Realm and Yusha Realm, he was unable to stop it, and he didn't want to get involved. This is not something he can do. One day later, Zuyun and Sun Qiniang flew up again, heading from Fire Dragon sect to Huaytan Valley, passing through Beiwa City. When they passed by, Sun Qiniang said in surprise, "Zuyun, there is a city there, how about we go in and have a rest?" Since leaving Lingjian sect, Sun Qiniang has not seen any city. Now that she has seen it, she naturally wants to go in and take a look to see the difference between the cities in the Peepa realm and the cities in other realms, so as to satisfy her curiosity. Don't go in, this city. What happened to the city? Sun Qiniang became even more interested when she saw Zuyun's strange expression. This city is not serious, let's go around it quickly. After Zuyun finished speaking, he changed direction. At this time, there were no monks patrolling the sky above Beiwa City who were at the peak of the late stage of Danja, but the fact that so many monks were chasing him to Huaytan Valley at that time showed some risks. Isn't it serious? Where is it not serious? Sun Qiniang didn't know whether she really understood or pretended to understand, so she followed Zuyun and asked. I can't tell. Anyway, the last time I came to the city, I almost died in it. If I hadn't met a friend, I might have been left in there and my life would have been worse than death. Speaking of friends, Zuyun couldn't help but think of Feng Qingyang. Who would have thought that he would be the son of Feng and he and Ting Feng Mozhun? Does that count as a friend? Zuyun felt that it was definitely not the case under the current situation. Otherwise, how could Feng Qingyang snatch the shuttle away again? It just so happens that I want to ask about Feng and he when I arrive at Huaytan Valley. You have so many friends. Sun Qiniang said casually, but still followed Zuyun around Beiwa City. After rushing for several days, they finally saw Lake Baiwa, and it was also midnight. Is this the island in the lake? Looking at it from mid-air, Sun Qiniang was also a little surprised. The full moon and the lake light meet each other, and the mist of water wafts on the water, which is beautiful. Yes, this is Peepa Lake. The island in the lake is called Peepa Prefecture. This is the center of Peepa Realm. And Huaytan Valley is in the center of Peepa Prefecture. Since the Shui Lingzu was taken away by Zuyun, the two different situations of day and night in Lake Baipa have disappeared. However, no one noticed it at this time. Whether a mortal or a monk. Ordinary monks rarely come here. As for the mortals living by the lake, who make a living by fishing, of course they dare not go out at night. But more or less, they already feel that the harvest is slightly different from before. This is because the spiritual power is no longer so strong, and the spiritual fish in the lake are more or less affected. Follow me and don't run around, lest the senior nascent soul here take action. Zuyun deliberately scared Sun Qiniang. Don't worry, I will definitely follow you closely. Sun Qiniang rolled her eyes and felt a little disinterested in her heart. Zuyun is not afraid, how can I still be afraid? She didn't know that Zuyun was already strong enough to kill Yuanying stage. The two continued flying and flew in from the mountain pass one after another. Huh. Looking at Huayden Valley, which was as bright as day, Zuyun also let out a light sigh. He had some doubts in his heart. Weren't all the flowers on the cliff here previously burned to death by the sky fire dragon? How long has it been since then? How come it has returned to its original state? Zuyun did not know the relationship between the secret realm of the Book of Heaven and Huayden Valley. He only knew that when he first came here, he had seen these flowers, and they seemed to be ordinary flowers with no spiritual power at all. Who trespasses into our Huayden Valley sword refining sect? At this time, Feng Anhe's voice came from the bottom of the valley. Zuyun immediately lowered his head and saw Feng Anhe with a very sloppy head. I'm here. Zuyun smiled heartily, and in a flash, he landed in front of Feng Anhe. When Sun Qiniang saw that he was really in the nascent soul stage, she couldn't help but feel nervous, but thinking about Zuyun's instructions, she carefully landed beside him and remained silent. Little brother, it turns out to be you. Feng Anhe's eyes lit up and he said, you really are here. Every time I come here, you bring a beautiful female nun. Why, are you also looking for a wife for my son? Old guy, Zuyun scolded with a smile, this is my friend. He happened to be on the same road as me, so he came to Huayden Valley. I have something to do with you. Is something wrong? Feng Anhe immediately looked at Sun Qiniang's hand and said, little brother, don't lie to me. What this little girl is holding is the Wind Dragon sword. I was the one who took it away from the Kifutiankang at that time. The implication is that Zuyun came to him for the sword. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 680. We'll talk about the Wind Dragon sword later. I want to tell you about your Taoist companion. Zuyun said slowly, but the expression on Feng Anhe's face suddenly became exciting. You met her. Hearing such a tone, Zuyun showed a playful smile and asked, what do you think? Oh, little brother, we are so familiar with each other, don't be too pretentious. By the way, when I was refining this Wind Dragon sword, I designed these spells. Feng Anhe quickly changed his expression, talking warmly while searching for his ring. After a moment, there was a simple booklet in his hand. Fairy, given your current state, it is really difficult to fully control the sword spirit of the Wind Dragon sword. If you want to master its magical powers, I'm afraid you have to wait until you break through to the nascent soul stage. Just in time. This sword was refined by me, so it naturally has the method of controlling spirits. No, it is in this book. In addition, the magical powers I mentioned are also in the book. Feng Anhe personally placed the booklet in Sun Qiniang's hand, leaving Sun Qiniang stunned. This is nascent soul stage? If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes and felt Feng Anhe's aura, she would never have believed that a nascent soul stage would have such a posture. Is it because of the Wind Dragon sword? No, it's because of Zuyun. Holding the booklet in hand, Sun Qiniang couldn't help but look at Zuyun. He and Feng Anhe have gone far. Little brother, have you really seen my Taoist companion? At that time, after contacting Nangong Tingfeng through the stone carvings in the earth veins, they no longer had any communication. This extremely convenient means of communication actually consumes a lot of resources, and even the status and realm of the two of them cannot afford it. If it weren't for the nascent souls from the Peepa realm to attack the Yasha realm, Feng Anhe might not have passed on the news if he was worried about Nangong Tingfeng. In addition, there is their only son, Feng Qingyang. Tingfeng Demon Lord, do you think I've seen it? Little brother, you are awesome. Feng Anhe gave Zuyun a thumbs up. Zuyun said with a faint smile, Feng Anhe, if you hadn't said hello in advance, I'm afraid it wouldn't have been so easy for me to return to the Peeper realm safely from Tingfeng Demon Lord, right? Hey, little brother, what do you want to say? Feng Anhe's heart condensed, and he knew what Zuyun wanted to ask. It's just the statue under the ground, it has too much to do with it. Perhaps, it will directly affect the battle between Yusha realm and Peeper realm. But he didn't expect that Zuyun didn't care about this at all, but said, is it because of Tingfeng Demon Lord that you stay alone and don't act with other nascent soul stages in Peeper realm? Well, Feng Anhe scratched his head and said, little brother, to tell you the truth, the combination of Tingfeng and I caused a small fight back then, and even my father was afraid of me. Get up and fight for 3 days and 3 nights. Oh? Is this the case? Zuyun was not interested in Feng Anhe's past, but in order to know more about the battle between the two realms, he could only let Feng Anhe talk. Of course it's true. Feng Anhe's voice suddenly rose and he said, little brother, there is no need for me to lie to you. When Tingfeng followed me in Huaytan Valley, whenever Tingfeng went into seclusion, I would suffer a small beating a day and a big beating every 3 days. The miserable life. Later, when Xingyang was born, this day was over, and my father also left and went to the spirit world, and I accepted the position of the sword refining sex leader. Zuyun was stunned and asked curiously, is it possible that your father beat you because he was afraid that the demon cultivator would not be able to give birth to a son and cut off the incense of your Feng family? Listening to what you said, it's really possible. Unexpectedly, Feng Anhe immediately got excited and said, I always thought that my father beat me because good and evil could not be combined. But he did not beat the mandarin ducks with a stick. Instead, he left the clan after Tingfeng gave birth to Xingyang. Go, it is completely in line with the ancestral precepts of our Feng family, little brother, it is really clear to all observers. Feng Anhe's face was full of relief and gratitude, which made Zuyun speechless, but he could only echo, Feng Anhe, then why did Lord Feng Amo leave Huaytan Valley again? This is not the Wuchideo of that year. Feng Anhe said with an angry look on his face, the people of the puppet control demon sect do not respect martial ethics and engage in sneak attacks. It was agreed that only 2 demon sects can operate in the Peeper realm, but after he came from the Yusha realm, keep a low profile, and when he suddenly appears, there are already countless puppets under his command, even those who are connected to the alchemy stage. Wuchideo. Zuyun was also shocked. He didn't expect that Wuchideo would be mentioned. That's right, it's Wuchideo. Little brother, do you know? Feng Anhe was also a little surprised. Of course I know, I also know that Wuchideo is dead. What? Dead? Impossible. Calculating the time, Wuchideo should have almost completed the 9th generation of magic. If the master of the Beast Pet Pavilion hadn't taken action and led a group of nascent souls to forcibly seriously injure Wuchideo, I'm afraid the entire Peeper realm will fall into the hands of the puppet control demon sect. Feng Anhe shook his head like a rattle, but suddenly he stopped again and said, wait a minute, this time they gathered to attack Yusha realm, could it be that, Wuchideo is really dead? Otherwise, then how dare the old guy leave Peeper realm? Who are you talking about? Zuyun asked. Of course it's the owner of the Beast Pet Pavilion. He's selling dog meat under the guise of selling sheep meat. He thinks we don't know the details. In fact, many people are tied to a boat and there is no way to expose it. I won't go along with him, so I can't give him face. Feng Anhe showed a haughty look, but thinking that Zuyun was in front of him again, he immediately laughed and said, brother, I'm off topic. By the way, how do you know Wuchideo is dead? Of course I know, Zuyun rolled his eyes and laughed, I said I killed Wuchideo, do you believe it? You killed him. Feng Anhe almost said he didn't believe it, but when the words came to his lips, he nodded repeatedly and said seriously, "Of course I believe it, brother, you can even kill the androgynous ghost thing in Beiwa City, so Wuchideo, who has not yet fully cultivated the 9th generation, is naturally no problem for you." Feng Anhe's heart was like a mirror. If Wuchideo has cultivated the 9th generation of magic, I'm afraid the entire Peeper realm will never have peace. Since he is not yet complete, he is at most a half-infant. Yes, I almost fell into his trap. Zuyun couldn't help but think of the first time when King New Town fought with Wuchideo. He was only at the Jindan stage, but he could use teleportation. If he didn't have the thunder escape technique, he would have become a handful of yellow soil in King New Town. Little brother, if Wuchideo died, this matter could be a big deal. Feng Anhe thought about it carefully, and his face became solemn again. You mean, the Yugui demon sect in Yusha realm? Right. Feng Anhe clapped his hands fiercely and said, Wu Qi said that he could support a demon sect in Peeper realm alone, which shows his leadership ability. Secondly, the 9 generations of magic skills are extremely difficult to practice. It is rare to practice for 5 generations. Even the current sect leader has only practiced for 7 generations. And the most talented people in history have practiced for the 8th generation at most. This is one of the reasons why Wu Qi dared to run rampant in Peeper realm. So, Zuyun immediately understood what Feng Anhe meant, and then he said, all the people in Yugui demon sect in Yusha realm will help him out, and it is very likely that all their anger and hatred will be vented on the Peeper realm cultivators who are going there. Indeed. Feng Anhe said, I know a little bit. The old Immortal Pavilion master spread the news through various channels, asking the cultivators of the entire Peeper realm to go to the junction. As long as they join forces to blast open the barrier of the junction, they will attack the Yusha realm. But, Zuyun said, but if the Yugui demon sect captures them, it means that they have more puppets, which will make the Yugui demon sect stronger and stronger. That's it? Feng Anhe said loudly, if this is true, I'm afraid, Peeper realm is over. Zuyun took a deep breath. No matter what the situation is, it is not a good thing for the human race. When Feng Anhe also looked at him, Zuyun suddenly said, then you say, will Dongsheng realm join in? Dongsheng realm? What does our human race have to do with their demon race when we fight? Feng Anhe curled his lips, but in an instant, as if he thought of something, his face changed suddenly.